The story begins with Oliver, who stands there admiring the blossoming of a tree that is known for not blooming. He proceeds forward with the other students toward the academy when he is joined by a pride plant. It picks up on his nerves and tries to advise him to relax a little as it's the day of his entrance ceremony. Things take a bit of a dark turn when it hints at a terrible future that awaits him. He just smiles and thanks the plant for the heads up. It excuses itself while letting out a mysterious laugh. Oliver wonders what it meant by a terrible fate. He just assumes that is something that the plant says to new students to make them crap their pants a bit, but he's still cautious about the warning as the school that he's entering is not ordinary. His thoughts are interrupted when he hears a sigh from Katie, who too has been warned of the terrible future by the plant. However, she is a little shaken up by it. Guy comes in to assure her that these nasty comments are part of the characteristics of the pride plants. It is just that the ones on the school ground are very extreme due to the magic particles they absorb from the ground. Katie is not knowledgeable about plants, but she loves magical creatures, although she can't even name any even after Guy asks her. Their conversation is interrupted when Michaela suddenly tries to save Pete from almost standing on the pride plant as it could lead to him getting insulted by it. Pete doesn't show any appreciation for the save. The pride plant turns its attention to Nano, who stands out in her samurai outfit. She pays no mind to it, but the others stop their interaction and stare in fascination. Oliver is moved by a feeling in his heart that fate has brought them together at the school. All the while, Nano turns to them and smiles before moving. Shortly after, the students arrive at the school entrance and are met by a parade of magical creatures. Dai excitedly comments that he has never seen some of these types of animals before. Oliver overhears him and educates him on some of the wildlife. Dai notices that Katie has a sad look on her face while watching. He wonders why she has that expression since she said she loved them earlier. The girl reiterates that she has love for them. However, she points out the fact that a troll is made to walk in the parade with the other magical beasts. She comments on how wrong it is, but Guy doesn't see the problem since the creatures don't speak the human language. He even points out that the wild ones attack people, so he feels like they need human training so that they can serve people's needs. The conversation begins to get heated as they both seem passionate about their stance. Pete asks them to keep quiet as their bickering is disturbing his reading. They both calm down and apologize. Oliver feels like they should at least get to know each other's names before getting into such deep conversations. They both shyly agree with him. Katie's introduction is interrupted when a student in the crowd casts a spell which makes her lose control of her legs. The girl screams as she runs towards the parade. The others shout for her to stop, but she informs them of the situation. Oliver immediately figures out that it is magic and chases after her. The others follow when they see that she is heading straight for the troll. The panic causes some canines to attack the troll, but it deals with them effortlessly. The spell wears off as it delivers Katie to the creature. She falls to the floor and is unable to move. The students draw their swords, but can see that they will not make it in time. Just as the troll prepares to punch a conqueror's hockey-level yelp comes from Nano as she orders it to halt. The samurai gets between Katie and the troll, drawing her katana. Michaela feels like it is a self-ending move and launches a lightning spell to assist, but doesn't do anything. Oliver asks everyone to stop for a moment as their spells are not strong enough to do damage. He takes command of the offensive and asks them to cast a wind spell at a specific location. This causes a big cyclone, so he uses it to create a wind dragon that intimidates the troll. Nano picks up on the opening and launches her attack. As she comes down, her hair turns white. This shocks Oliver, who identifies it as innocent color. The girl lands a clean hit on the troll, knocking it out. Her hand begins to tremble because of how hard the skull of the creature is. The others catch up and she thanks them for the help. With the accident averted, the students gather in the hall. Oliver is shocked to learn that Nano didn't have a plan when she jumped in front of the troll. She even reveals that her katana doesn't have an edge on it. She feels like going through such a near-death experience is a good omen for her. Oliver doesn't understand what she means. All he knows is that her innocent zero signifies that she has powerful menace circulation within her body, which hints at her great potential as a mage. An announcement of the principal's arrival catches everyone's attention. They all watch in awe as she appears following a bolt of lightning. She introduces herself as Esmeralda. The principal firstly apologizes for the incident at the parade and updates everyone on how they handled the aftermath. Nano comments on how strong she looks. Esmeralda states that the students will spend the next 7 years learning. However, the academy prioritizes freedom and results. She emphasizes that the students' life and death are in their own hands, and she means it literally. This is illustrated as the principal explains that 80% of students graduate from the academy intact. The other 20% are permanently crippled due to several causes. Either their magic goes out of control, they get captured by something they summoned, or lose their lives after going mad and attempting to slay their fellow students. In this world of magic, these individuals are labeled as consumed by the spell. She reminds them that this is the reality of learning magic. Even those at the top are not exempt, as they also continue to walk this path that is paved by the corpses of the dead. She takes questions after the speech, which doubles as a warning. Everyone is silent, but Nanao raises her hand and gives advice to the principal on how to alleviate pain, as it seems like she is suffering from some. The principal doesn't address the statement and adjourns the ceremony. Oliver wonders if Nanao has some screws loose to pull such a stunt off, but the girl is adamant that it works. Meanwhile, Esmeralda notifies them of the welcome banquet where they will get to mingle among themselves. She uses a teleportation spell to swiftly move them to the banquet hall. The gang quickly gathers as they are welcomed by their seniors. They drink with the upper-class men who try to assure the fresh that things are not as bad as the principal tries to make it seem. The older students will try their best to make the school safer for them. Katie joins them soon after being given treatment. Her fall is broken by Nanaho. Now that everyone is present, they all sit around the table where the group formally introduces themselves and their lineage. It is revealed that Michaela comes from the prestigious McFarland family. Katie is an exchange student and Guy comes from a magical farming family. Pete's parents are both non-magical, so he enrolled as an ordinary, which is quite a feat to achieve. Oliver gets him to lower his guard a bit by discussing the book he's reading. Oliver then introduces himself. He lives with relatives and has 2 cousins who are upper-class men in the school. Michaela comments on how impressive he was during the troll incident. Oliver states that he is good at customizing spells and coming up with new ways to use them. Nanawa reveals that she is from a samurai family, but she was enrolled in the school after being saved by Michaela's father during a war. Michaela discloses that her father is a part-time lecturer at the school, and the teacher at the academy can recommend one student, so her father must have chosen her. This makes Pete salty. Their attention turns to the food as Oliver ends up serving everyone. When Nana tries to take all the meat, Michaela attempts to teach her table manners, per their customs as a farmer. Guy tries to lecture Pete about the benefits of eating vegetables when he hears that the bookworm doesn't like his greens, but Pete is not interested. All the while, Nana wants more. After clearing her plate, the students use the banquet as an icebreaker. They then make their way to their dorms to get some rest. Actor Oliver wakes up in the early hours of the morning and frees some clock knocks that are messing with his time. He was paired up with Pete in a room, so he walks over to him and covers him properly. He gets a flashback to Peter warning him not to make noise while he tries to read. When he was notified that they will be sharing a room, they have their first lessons later that day, but Oliver has decided to get out early to have a proper look at the place while it is less busy. As he walks, a lady calls from the shadow, checking to see if he's fine. Oliver is on guard till the lady reveals that she is a covert operative sent by Gwen to watch over him till he got settled in. She is at his beck and call. Oliver addresses Gwen as his brother as he talks about him, but he wants to know his guardian's name, so she introduces herself as Teresa. He is certain that he will get to see her face soon. As he proceeds forward, he catches a glimpse of Nanao bathing at the fountain. This knocks him off guard, so he casts a spell that covers the area around the fountain. He scolds her for her actions, but she informs him that she is purifying herself for the blood she spilled during her last war. Oliver noticed the scars on her body and is curious to know what happened, so she alerts him that it was from the war. She apologizes for how hideous they look, but he assures her that it is not the case. He turns, and when he sees her, he is reminded of someone else from his past. Oliver gives his coat to her when she complains about not having something to dry herself with. They have a moment, but he notices the faint scent of blood that still lingers on her, which only adds to the intrigue. The following day, the group convenes in front of the dining hall. The 3 girls discuss their first night in their new environment. Their attention is drawn when they spot Oliver and Pete, so they ask about the boys' night and are happy to hear that it was good. Guy brings some energy to the conversation when he rushes in late, complaining that no one told him about the clock knocks who tampered with his alarm. The lads notice that Nana is wearing her uniform. She is excited that it finally came and happy to begin her mage journey. Oliver looks at her and remembers the moment he had with her earlier that morning. He hides it when Guy comments on his damp robe. Pete ends the small talk and suggests they should go for breakfast as they have their first set of classes. After getting some food, they head to their first official lesson, which happens to be the sword arts. Their tutor, Garland, welcomes them and tests if the class knows their basics. Pete is quick to raise his hand to answer as he introduces himself. His other classmates begin to make comments, calling him the teacher's pet already. They also comment on how he's ordinary. Oliver picks up on what they said and makes a mental note. Pete, on the other hand, is too busy explaining that the sword arts are the techniques performed by blades. The reason for the use of swords as a complement dates back to 400 years ago, when a famous mage named Wolf Batterwell lost a duel to a non-magical. Ever since mages took that big ill, they have carried swords to deal with close-range attacks. When they don't have the luxury to chant incantation, they can also use the blade itself to chant magic that stuns enemies and much more. This opens a multitude of combat styles. The tutor is impressed with his new pet's detailed answer, but he informs them about the one spell distance, which allows them to cut down a foe with a short dash. The blade and magic are going to be their main tools in combat in this world, and using it with proficiency is the definition of a master of the sword arts. Garland wants to commemorate their first lesson by having two students who know how to handle their blades demonstrate a duel. Nanao immediately volunteers, which shocks everyone. The tutor is impressed with her enthusiasm, but given her background, he wonders if she knows how to use sword arts. Before he can give it a second thought, Richard steps up to be her opponent. He's interested in her since hearing she defeated a troll with just a sword. He also states that it would be an excellent opportunity for her to show them how they fight from her homeland. Katie remarks on how she doesn't like Richard already. Oliver figures that the boy wants to show that he is tougher than Nuna by taking advantage of her lack of sword art experience. The tutor is willing to approve the matchup if they both agree. Oliver interjects, expressing his wish to duel Nuna. This annoys Richard, who tries to confront him, but Oliver puts him in his place to cut the tension. Michaela also steps up and challenges Andrew to a duel, stating that everyone will be more impressed if he could defeat her. He reluctantly agrees to her challenge, but Oliver notices from their interaction that the two might have some history. He gives her a nod of approval for the interference. The tutor announces the final matchup. Oliver and Nano enter the ring first and are ordered to draw. He casts a spell on both their blades, explaining that it is an anti-lethality spell that makes it so that they don't injure each other. Nano tests it on herself to see it in action. The teacher adds that this is the only form of combat that is allowed between students. There is a harsh penalty for those who break the rules. He then proceeds to give details of the rules of enjoyment for this duel. There is no time limit. The fight only ends when one of them inflicts a mortal blow to the head or chest. Before they start, Nana notifies Oliver that they should face each other honorably in battle, to which he agrees. Since she doesn't know magic, he intends not to use it and will only fight a little before calling it a day. He promptly throws that idea in the trash when he remembers that his opponent is battle-hardened, so he can't afford to hold back against her. She activates her Innocent Zero and executes a rush attack that Oliver blocks, but he struggles to keep her at bay. He uses a spell to weaken her footing. This gives him an opening that he tries to capitalize on, but she quickly recovers. Everyone watches tensely as the two exchange sword strokes. Their high-level swordsmanship causes shockwaves and sparks. They size each other while they recollect themselves for the next clash. Oliver can tell that Nana has taken countless lives with that blade. As the exchange restarts, he wonders just how much blood that blade has seen. They pause again for a moment, and he notices the tears running down her face. He tells her not to cry, and he internally expresses that he wants to stop her tears with everything he has. At that moment, holding nothing back, he changes his stance. She thanks him after seeing that he understands her sentiments. They charge their magic, intending to fight until one of them dies. The tutor immediately shouts for them to stop and orders them to put their swords down. He informs them that he doesn't want them to end one another, revealing that they both unconsciously broke the anti-lethality spell. Hearing this makes Oliver think twice about what he was about to do. As the other students whisper among themselves, the girl sheathes her sword with a disappointed look and takes a seat. Michaela asks Andrew how many of Nana's attacks he thinks he could have deflected. From his response, she can see that her point has been made, so she retracts her challenge to Andrew and proclaims that she doesn't think the new students need to see any more fighting. Andrew also agrees, so the teacher allows it. After the lesson, Nana calls Oliver. While trying to catch up to him, she excitedly comments on how wonderful their fight was and even adds that she has never had such a fulfilling duel. The boy carries on walking, ignoring her statements. She doesn't get the hint and continues on that she regrets the fact that they were not able to finish the fight. The samurai yearns to see what lies beyond that moment more than anything. She asks him to fight her again, and this time their battle will not end until they are both satisfied. Oliver gets a flashback of her crying face, which sends him over the edge, so he turns and tells her that he refuses. This shocks her. As he takes a step back, Oliver doubles down, stating that he will never fight her again. She begins to get upset as she asks why, but he doesn't give a reason and just storms off. All he says is that he wouldn't want to end her and he would prefer it for her to also not want to end him. Ironically, his words trigger the tears he wanted to stop to start flowing. The group gather for lunch after their second lesson. Oliver and Nano sit there with sad faces as Guy recaps the second lesson. The tutor for that topic expresses her disdain for the sword as she is a purist. The old lady who was alive when Jesus took his first step believes that mages should only use their wands to tackle their issues. She briefly displays her point when she summons many familiars. As Guy continues to talk, Michaela notices the tension between the two. Katie changes the topic as she expresses her excitement for their magical biology lesson. Soon after they find themselves in that lesson, they're to her. Vanessa lets it be known that this is not an animal-loving class, but one that treats magical creatures as resources. The students will be learning how best to exploit these monsters. Katie's dream subject just turned into a nightmare. The teacher reveals their tasks for the day. Some magic silkworms appear on their table. The girl already grabs them, calling them cute. Vanessa explains that they will make cocoons if one feeds them with magic. She demonstrates what happens if too much magic is given to them. The cocoon turns black and a fierce monster is born. Their task is to enshroud and keep 5 alive for a passing grade. Some of the students, like Oliver and Michaela, find it easy as they reach the goal. On the other hand, Guy and Nano struggle due to skill add Katie to the mix of struggling students because she doesn't want any to go bad. Michaela suggests to Oliver that they should help their struggling friends. She opts to go help Nano and says to Oliver that she can see that something happened between the two of them. The tutor goes around to inspect and remarks on how the freshmen are better than the previous years. The teacher sees Katie taking her time and tries to confront her about it, but the girl stands by her animal-loving principles. The tutor ignores her and carries on checking the rest. One of Katie's silkworms turns black and she tries to save it, but the monster created bursts out of the cocoon and bites her. Oliver and Michaela step in to exterminate it, forcing the teacher to deduct points from them for helping her. Oliver takes her to the infirmary to get her wounds attended to. She thanks him for the help and begins to disclose her private life. Her love for animals comes from the fact that her family has so many. She was especially close with a troll called Potra. This is why she can't stand seeing them getting hurt. She understands that sometimes it is a necessary evil for things to advance, but that doesn't mean she has to like it. Oliver hears her out and feels like she will have to shed that mindset in the future. But for now, he and the rest are there to support her. Oliver is soon joined by his hidden guard. She tries to warn him about associating with people like Katie because with her outlook, she's going to find it difficult to survive in the academy. He warns her that he can figure things out himself. The guard excuses herself to go to Gwyn's workshop and he asks her to greet his brother for him. The group later head for dinner, where they check in on Katie and discuss another topic. When they finish eating, Pete remembers that he left his book in class and excuses himself to go and find it. Oliver and Michaela look at each other and volunteer to go with him. The rest notice the tension as the trio leaves. Katie remembers hearing that the academy sits on top of a giant labyrinth, and when night comes, the labyrinth starts to encroach upon the building. Meanwhile, Pete retrieves his book to the other two's relief. They quickly want to head back before it gets late. Michaela states that they are not ready to be in school for long. After dark, they try to make their way through the door, but are met with a brick wall. The two are surprised that the encroachment has already spread this far in such a short period. Oliver points out that there should be upperclassmen and instructors patrolling, so they should find help and get escorted. They are spotted by Salvadori, who is a fourth-year student. She uses her magic to make her victims fall in love with her. Oliver reveals that he read a paper she published and was impressed but disturbed by her work. She tries to get Pete, but the other two block it. Oliver and the other excuse themselves and turn past her, but they are stopped. By the 5th year, Cyrus Salvadori catches up, and from their interaction, it seems like they are working together. The upperclassmen have no good intentions for their juniors as they discuss disciplining them for their rudeness. That brings the episode to an end.